Hello and welcome back or welcome to our channel. We read books and we have fishes.
Correct.
That was a bad intro.
Well, welcome back. Today we thought we would do a quick run through of our top 10 books each.
Yes. So 20 in total. So we're gonna go kind of fast.
Of 2024.
Of 2024, yeah. All right. Who wants to start? Also, these are in no particular order, except for my last two are probably my two favorite of the year.
And my last one will be my favorite of the year. But besides that. Oh, hi, Baguette. Do you want to be involved?
Do you want to be in the video?
Oh.
Okay.
Okay, so, you can go first.
First, I have Where the Drowned Girls Go. This is book 7?
I don't know.
I think it's book 7 in the Wayward Children series. I read 3 of them this year. This one is definitely one of my favorites. I really liked that we spent time at a different school. I thought that was really interesting. And I liked that this one, and actually the last 3, or the most recent 3, kind of all tied together, and I feel like they're building up to something big.
A book, Phil.
Benny dropped a book, right?
I think I'm going to do the books that I don't own first, get those out of the way. So these books I read from the library. So my first one that I don't own that I loved this year is Natural Beauty by Ling Ling Huang. I loved this. It was one of my favorite genres, which is part horror, part coming of age story. I think they're really fun. I also love books that are really weird and also that talk about the beauty sphere or like how nefarious things like the beauty industry can be. So I really love that. It made me cry, which I don't know if most people go into a horror thinking they're gonna make you cry, but it actually happens to me kind of often.
Yes, can confirm she did cry.
It was really good.
My next one is a book that I listened to on Libby. It's actually a YA called We Deserve Monuments by Jazz Hammond. I thought it was really great. It was another like coming of age story set in this small town, I believe in Georgia. It's kind of like part coming of age, part mystery thriller. Yeah, and as someone from a really small town, I was like, it's kind of close to home. Also, the girl in it like moves from DC back to the really small town where her mom is from. Lots of secrets, drama, and I also think that there was a relationship, like a romantic relationship that was a central point, but also there was another girl who there were 3 of them, and I thought their friendship was really well developed.
Nice. So the other book that I wanted to put on my top 10 of the year, and I'm not saying that this book was maybe like the best romance that I read this year, but I think this one just really surprised me how much I loved it, and that is The Truth According to Ember by Danica Nava. I just really loved this. It's about this girl, Ember, who has her first kind of big girl corporate job, and she kind of very immediately falls for a guy that she works with, but they're trying like not to get caught because they're co-workers, and also they're both Native Americans who are living in Oklahoma, so there's lots about their culture and just how their culture impacts their relationship and their relationships with their family and those around them. And I just really enjoyed this. It really surprised me how much I really loved it.
My next one is YA. I listened to it from Libby, but we also do own it, and that is All My Rage by Sabaa Tahir. I was really surprised by it. This is the first Sabaa Tahir I've read. I haven't read her Ember in the Ashes series, and I also have not yet read Air. I really loved her writing style. I loved the characters. There was a lot going on, and I know that for some people it was a little bit too much. There was a little bit too much happening, too many issues, but like that's kind of reality. A lot of the issues she talks about in this book are intersectional, and although some of them, probably not all of the things that happened in this book would realistically happen, I thought it was still a great time. Great story, loved it.
I have read Sabaa Tahir's other books, and I think they're a good time. I think you should pick them up if you haven't yet. My next book on my top 10 is How to Say Babylon by Sophia Sinclair. This is a memoir of Sophia as she grows up in Jamaica in a Rastafarian household, and the abuse that she faced at the hands of her father, and just how that impacted her growing up, and how she kind of escaped that world, and where the relationship stands with her mother and father after, the way that she was raised and how it impacted her. I loved this for a few different reasons. One, Sophia is such an incredible writer. She's a poet, and I think you can really tell just in the way that she writes and the lyricism of the story. And I think that often with memoirs, I will give a great pass if the writing isn't the best, because their story might be so impactful. But this one, both the story is really impactful. I learned a lot about Jamaica in the 90s and 80s, and I learned a lot about Rastafarianism that I didn't know, but also just the way she wrote was just like so beautiful and heartbreaking. So yeah, that was definitely my top memoir of the year.
Okay, so my next book is The 8 Wayward Children, Lost in the Moment and Found. I really enjoyed this one as well. I read 3 of them, and this one and Where the Drowned Girls Go made it. The 9th one did not, but these 2 are probably some of my favorite of the series. I really liked the world that Anstey goes to, who's the character in this one, and I liked that it's kind of a nexus of doors, and we got to see kind of a sneak peek of a lot of different worlds. And again, it's like building up to something big, I think.
And then the last book that I don't physically own is Bury Your Gaze by Chuck Tingle.
I thought we did own it. I thought we bought it.
I might have. Maybe it's upstairs. Anyways, maybe I do, maybe I don't. Who's to say? I loved this book. I thought it had a lot of really poignant things to say about Hollywood and queer media, and how queer actors and artists are treated in Hollywood. And I also thought that it was just a really fun, engaging, monster, paranormal, spooky time. I thought it was really good. I loved it. That's all.
My next book is probably also one of the most surprising, and that is The Emperor and the Endless Palace. First of all, I want to say I think that this book was mismarketed as a romantasy. I don't think that it falls into that category. It definitely has relationships at the center of it, but I wouldn't say that it's just very different than what you would think of as like Sarah J. Maas kind of romantasy, and the kind of romantasy that is like very popular right now. I was really surprised by this because it was marketed that way, but I would say it's like, yeah, queer political fantasy, and yeah, there were lots of little like Easter eggs and kind of hints that there would be more in this world. It's a debut, so yeah, I'm really hoping he writes more in this world. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Okay, my next book is actually a graphic novel, and that's The Girl from the Sea by Molly Knox Ostertag, and I thought this was delightful. It's about a girl who lives on this island, and there's seals, and people come to like see the seals, but there's fairies, and the fairies are polluting the seals. So she's, with her friends kind of she learns that the fairies are bad for the seals, and so she's trying to save them. And also maybe there's some Selkies involved, and maybe she's having a teenage girl crush on a Selkie, and it's just really, really delightful and cute and wholesome, but also talks about like being a good steward of your environment. And yeah, that's all things that I absolutely adore, and I think this is a really good YA graphic novel. Yeah.
Haven't read it yet, but I will definitely pick it
It's
up
a quick
at some
read.
point.
It's a quick read. It's like a half an hour, it's a graphic novel.
Also, the art is like stunning.
It is very beautiful. It's very
the colors.
It's colorful, it's engaging, it's it's just lovely. It's a lovely story.
My next book is The Stationery Shop by Marjan Kamali. I've actually owned this book for a long time and finally got around to reading it. I listened to it in like one sitting, basically. It was heartbreaking and beautiful, and I have her new book, Lion Women of Tehran, and I'm very excited to pick that one up.
The latest entrance to the mine list is We Solve Murders by Richard Osman. I actually finished this today, and I absolutely loved it. Richard Osman is a favorite author in this household. We both really love the Thursday Murder Clubs, and I was really excited that he was coming out with a new series, but I was a little, like, not hesitant, but you never know when it's, like, a new series when you love, like, a different series from an author. But this one was just as delightful. We follow Amy and her father-in-law, Steve, who they're really cute and wholesome, and they just care for each other so much as they gallivant across the world trying to
Solve murders.
solve a murder because so people are trying to kill Amy, and so it's like both they're like trying to save her life and solve other murders, and it's delightful, and I think it's definitely going to be a series, I think, and I really loved it. Exceeded my expectations.
My next one is Darker by Floor by June C.L. Tan. I read this one on ebook. And
Benjamin!
Benny, stop it.
Sorry.
Sorry. I read this one on ebook, but ate it up, loved it, and immediately ordered the beautiful Fairy Loot edition from Pengo. I read her debut a couple years ago when it came out, which I also really enjoyed. And this one, I thought it had all of the elements of East Asian fantasy that I like, but also had a little bit of a different twist. It's more contemporary, kind of urban fantasy, and it just like did something different with the genre, especially being YA. I was really surprised by this one. So yeah, it's on my top 10.
Nice. My next book is The Seventh Veil of Salome by Sylvia Marina Garcia. It's rare that a Sylvia book doesn't make it to my top of the year. I just really adore her. Her books...
Baguette, no! That one is not yours.
Sorry. It's very rare that a Sylvia book doesn't make it to my top of the year. I do just really adore her, and I adore her books and her writing, and I think one of my favorite parts is that all of her books are so distinctly different, but her ethereal voice is, like, so strong that, like, if I didn't know this was a Sylvia book, I think that in reading it, I would have, like, could have told you that it was her book. Like, I think her and I really like her voice. And so this is, like, an old Hollywood story, and also usually her books take place in Mexico or are about Mexican characters, and the main character is a Mexican woman who gets picked to go to Hollywood and be like the star, and there's love and intrigue and murder plots and Hollywood, and there's just everything, and I think this is like the perfect kind of like fast-paced, glamorous historical fiction. Love. Love, love, love.
Nice. Okay, my next one is Yumi and the Night Painter. This one was actually my first Brandon Sanderson that I've read. Kind of shocking, I know.
It's a shocking one to start with,
right?
I think.
Yeah, like, I think that nobody starts with this one. In fact, I just looked up, like, which order you're supposed to read the Cosmere, and this one was one of the last ones that they recommend reading.
Is it in the Cosmere? I didn't think it was part of
it's a Cosmere novel.
Oh.
It says it on there.
I haven't read that one yet.
Anyways, I really liked this one. I thought this one was so fun. I also love the art, which isn't in this edition, but I have seen online.
Sorry, we weren't part of the Kickstarter.
Yeah, we weren't part of the Kickstarter.
I was poor then.
But yeah, I'm really excited to dive into the Cosmere next year.
I'm excited for her to start it. My next book is A Love Song for Ricky Wilde by Tia Williams. I thought this was so lovely. There's magical realism elements. It takes place in Harlem, and we're learning both about like the history of Harlem in modern day. And there's music, which I don't always love when there's like pages and pages of lyrics, but this doesn't have pages and pages of lyrics. They're just like music. He plays the piano, so he's a musician, but it's not like in the annoying way. And she runs a flower shop, and it is just so lovely.
You know who else owns a flower shop? Lily Blossom Bloom.
Which is not on my best of the year. So, yeah, and I just... It was just like I wanted to keep reading. I wanted to like see where we would go, and I think that when I like can't put a book down, that's, you know, and then for like sticks with me.
It's good.
It's a high, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so these next two books that I'm going to talk about are probably tied for my top two. but I'm first going to talk about If We Were Villains. I loved this book. It became my whole personality for a good while. I have not read The Secret History yet. It is on my TBR. I know, hearsay. But yeah, I loved this. I love the aesthetic of Shakespeare. And this gave me exactly that. It's dark academia. Somebody gets murdered. You're not really sure what's happening.
What murder?
Yeah, you really get to know the characters. You sympathize with them. You're like, damn, maybe that guy did deserve to die. And yeah, this was amazing. I do have 3 copies of it.
Yeah, she went a little crazy.
We are trying to sell one of them, or probably put it in a little library. It got water damage. But yeah, we have this one and the pretty paperback special edition that has the sprayed edges and blood splatter.
And blood splatter.
Blood.
My penultimate book is Somewhere Beyond the Sea by T.J. Klune. I really loved The House in the Cerulean Sea a few years ago, and when he announced he was doing a sequel, I was a little unsure. I didn't think that it needed a sequel. I thought that it had a lovely ending and it stood on its own, but I will say that this was a lovely companion to the first book. We follow the same characters in the same location a little bit after The House in the Cerulean Sea, and people are trying to disrupt the peace that they've created for themselves, and it's about them fighting for their family and for what they know is right. And also I really love how the community that we saw in the first book, the inklings of it being built, how that community rallied around them and protected the family.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was really nice. Also, T.J. Klune always makes me cry in his acknowledgments, and this was no different. Yeah, I don't know why. His acknowledgments just I didn't actually cry during the book, but I was reading his acknowledgments at the end, and I was like...
He strives to be the anti-J.K.
He
Rowling.
does. He strives to be the anti-J.K. Rowling, and I think
Love that.
in my mind, he's done it. So I really love T.J.'s books, and...
this one was definitely an honorable mention for her. Me.
Yeah, I really liked it.
Okay, and my last and possibly best book of the year, I don't own, but I did order a special edition of it, is The Sword of Kaigen. I had heard about it for a long time. I'd never gotten around to reading it, was a little intimidated. I also don't read self-published books that often, or indie published, and so I was a little bit hesitant going into it, just because I had heard so much hype about it, but it definitely lived up to the hype. The character arcs were amazing. I wanted to know more. I want more in this world, but I'm excited to read her new book, Blood Over Brighthaven. So, yeah.
Nice. And then my best book of the year, a book that I have not stopped thinking about since I read it many, many months ago, is The Warm Hands of Ghosts by Katherine Arden. First of all, I am a little bit of a history nerd. I love, this is gonna sound awful, I love World War One. I like learning about it. I like movies set during World War One, books set during World War One. I think it's just a good
a good time. War.
No, I just think that World War One is a very fascinating time to learn about, to read about, to engage with. And so this takes place during World War One, and it's about a nurse who is Canadian, and her brother goes missing, and so she is on the front lines, or not on the front lines, well, part of it is she is, but she's trying to find her brother. And it's very difficult to find her brother because some fantastical elements are at play, and he might not be in the same dimension, existence, plane, that might be why we can't find him, because he might not be, he's there but he's not there. But I loved this. I thought that the relationships were so dynamic and wonderful, and the characters were dynamic and wonderful, and yeah, I loved it. Katherine Arden did it again for me. I really, really enjoyed this. And it's not that long, it's very short, but yeah, I think about it all the time. Actually, at night I sit there and I'm like, wow, ghosts in World War One. Anyway,
All right.
anyway.
Well, that
That was
is
dramatic.
our 10 best each of the year. Let us know what you think in the comments.
And what was your best
What
book
was
of the year?
your best book of the year? And catch us next time for
Whoa.
our worst of the year.
Okay, bye.